We're getting towards the end of the Aseres HaDibros. Tonight we're going to be dealing with the 8th Dibra, Signov, and everybody knows, we all learned it in Cheder, I guess, that the Signov of the Aseres HaDibros is going on Goinev Nefesh. It's not going on the stealing an object from a person, because that's later on in Kedoshim, Signovu. But over here we have Signov. It's a dover halomed me in Yonai. Since we're talking about over here Chiyuv Misa, Sitzach, you get killed, Sinov, you get killed. So here also it has to be Signov, where you get killed. So that is when a person kidnaps another person. Now the etzem yesod of kidnapping, that what happens to that person, we have in Mishpotim, says v'goynev ish o mechora v'nimtza b'yodai mois yumas. So if somebody steals goynev a person and he sells him, v'nimtza b'yodai, machlokas Rashi and Tosfos, what exactly it means, Rashi and Ramban, what exactly it means v'nimtza b'yodai, we don't have to go into that now. Mois yumas, he's chayiv misa, he gets chenek. And you have the similar posuk in Devarim, where you have an addition. It says in Chof Dalet Zayin, Ki yemotze ish goynef nefesh me'echav b'nei Yisrael, v'his amer boy, which we don't have in Yisrael, u'mechoroi, u'meis haganav hahu v'yato haro mikirbecha. So it's a terrible crime to steal a person, to kidnap a person, and to sell him. What does it mean, his amer boy? So Chazal say that it means that he has to have made some use of him. He has to have used him for some purpose of his own. In other words, he steals him, he uses him. Chazal say using could be as little as simply leaning on him for a while. He's tired and so he leans on his shoulder. Or it's windy and he doesn't want to be bothered by the wind, so he stands up this person in the way of the wind, so he's protected. So he's using him in some ways. So his amer boy, and then he sells him. So what do we do with that? The truth is that when I was thinking about this Sigzol, I really didn't know what is there beyond the heinousness of just kidnapping a person. What can there be more yesodistic than that? That makes it into a Dibra, that makes it into a fundamental principle of being a part of a Mamlechas Kohanim, a Goy Kodesh, that if you do this terrible thing, you sort of dealt yourself out of the Mamlechas Kohanim, the Goy Kodesh. So, but then I started looking at the Indian a little more, and it hit me suddenly like a ton of bricks, that it's an unbelievably yesodistic thing. What started me thinking about it is, nowadays we have this nice encyclopedia on the Tariq mitzvahs. So they bring over here from the Rikanati about the Tameh HaMitzvah, Ha'odam nivro keven choyren, Kedei sheyeh ponoi la'avodas Hashem u'lekiyum mitzvahs ha'Torah. The Rebbeinu Shem created man as a free person, that he should be free to serve the Rebbeinu Shalom, to be mekayim the mitzvahs of the Torah. So hagoynev oisai v'hoifech oisai le'eved meifa b'kach es rotzon Hashem. The Tameh HaMitzvahs l'rikanati lo'saseh chof aleph. Now, the fact is that really only started me on a certain mahalach hamachshava, and I'll share that with you. And I think that's really very, very yesodistic, and for me at least, it explains very, very adequately why this should be part of the Aseres HaDibros. Because the truth is that the Issa, the way Chazal explained the Issa, how they learned the Psukim and how they finally formalized the halachas of what exactly is Mechayev Misa by Goynev Ish or Mechorai, a lot of things take place which don't really make any sense from a certain standpoint. For example, Goynev. What exactly is a Geneva? Now, when we Ganev of objects, we know what a Geneva is. We learn Bavakama, we know the Hagaizel, Baruba, whatever it is, and we know that the Geneva or Gezela takes place, that you make a Maisa Kinyon on the object. There's Kinyone Gezela, everybody knows this expression, Kinyone Gezela, and those Kinyone Gezela come about because you make a Kinyon. So, the same way that you make kinyone geneva, or you make kinyonim in order to be a ganav, if you just look at somebody's chayfa to say, okay, I'm going to take it now, you're not a ganav. You have to do actually a ma'aser kinyan. It has to be a valid ma'aser kinyan, which if you are buying the object would be put it into your possession, a kinyan, and that you do on the geneva without the permission of the owner, of course. So that makes you into a ganav. So the din is that by goynev nefesh, so there also you only become a goynev if you make a ma'aser kinyan. And a whole bunch of fakiros, what kind of kinyan, this kinyan, but the bottom line is that you have to make a kinyan. Otherwise you're not a ganav. You can't become a ganav unless you make a kinyan. Now, by goynev nefesh, that's very, very, very difficult to understand. Because when I steal an object, okay, I'm stealing it, the owner didn't give me reshus. So the Torah was mechadesh a pasha of geneva. Okay? So I do what I would do if I would take it legitimately, and since I'm taking it illegitimately, I become a ganav. But that's because the object which I'm taking is an object on which ownership is a possibility. So if the ownership is a possibility and I arrogate the object to myself without permission, and therefore I can't become a full owner because the owner didn't let me, so I become a ganav and I have kinyone geneva legav certain nafkaminas, so that makes sense. But what sense does it make to make a ma'aser kinyan on a human being on whom I cannot have a kinyan? There's no way. We talked about this a little bit earlier, about this yisoid that you can't be an eved. Avodahem v'lo avodim la'avodim. You can't. An eved Ivri cannot become a real eved. Ben Choyren, a Yisroel, cannot become an eved. Remember we talked about the Rashi in Bahar, that Shtorai Koidem. You can't be an eved. You can't. No yid can have a kinyan in another yid. It doesn't exist. You can be a sochia, but then then you're not owned by him. But a ma'aser kinyan on a person, which is the equivalent of the ma'aser kinyonim which I make when I ganav a chayfetz, is very difficult to understand. What kind of kinyan am I making? There is no kinyan on a human being. He's a ben chayren before just as much as he's a ben chayren now. So, what kind of kinyan is that? On whom am I kidding? The fact is, I don't become a goynev nefesh unless I make a ma'aser kinyan. But the fact is also that ma'aser kinyan doesn't do anything. So what's happening over here? It's a very strange halacha. And now, for example, the hisame boy, I'm using him. So what does that mean? Now, what chashivas does that using have? I'm taking a ben chayren. I'm taking somebody who is 100% Yisrael, and I have absolutely no kinyonim in him whatsoever, so I use him. So what does that do? But even harder than that is the umechorai. And now the din is that in order to be chayev misur for goynev nefesh, it's only if you sell him as an eved. So you sell him as an eved to something else. You know what? That kinyan isn't chal. The person who buys him for an eved, he has no kinyone avdos in him, for the very simple reason that the person who sold it to him, which is the ganav, also doesn't have any kinyonim in him. So the sale which you make is a non-starter. It's not a sale. Afal pikein, if I don't go through this non-sale, so I'm not chayiv misa. So the whole thing, the whole ma'aser of the avera of being goynev nefesh or mechorai is really a sort of it's a game. Nothing is happening. I ganav him, nothing has changed. I have zilch schusim in him. Nothing should be nothing, should be nothing, should be nothing. But I went through the act of ganvening him, and I did a ma'aser geneva. So really nothing has happened. Then I use him. The use is not in any way a legal use, a legal kind of use. It's exactly the same as if I'm bothered by the sun and I grab somebody, not the Torah's ganvening him, and I put him down and I say, I'm going to beat you up if you're going to move away. Please stand between me and the sun that I shouldn't be bothered. So what have I done? Nothing. I have no schusim in this person, and now I sell him. It's weiter the same thing. So how do we understand this issa? And noch a chiyuv misa for something which I didn't do one single thing. There's nothing. I murder somebody, he's dead. If I'm a zane with a nation's ish, I says nus. Over here, what did I do? I ganefed? I didn't ganef. I can't ganef him because the concept of geneva is kinyonim, kinyone geneva. That's what the concept of geneva is, and I can't have a kinyonim in this person, and I have to have sold him, but I can't sell him. I would go through the motion of selling him. I didn't do anything. The koiner didn't get anything, but now I'm chayiv misa for having done it. What is going on? It's a very, very difficult mitzvah to understand, or dibra to understand. But I think that he and Aseres, going back to the Rikanate, who says that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to be b'nei chayren, and by making him into an eved, by kidnapping him and selling him as an eved, I'm going against the rotzen of the Rebbeinu Shalom. There's more than that. You know what the issa is over here? At least that's how I understand it. I can't guarantee that I'm right, but I'll share with you what I think. I think that the issa that we're talking about over here is the issa of making a subject into an object. That gufa is the issa, that I'm treating him like an object. He's not an object, he's a subject. He's a ben chayren, he's a yid. Nobody can have kanyonim on him. There's no such thing as a kinyon in a yid. It doesn't exist. What am I doing? I'm treating a fellow Jew like an object. I'm stealing you. I'm using you. I'm selling you. These are all actions which can be done with objects. And the fact that they can't be done with people is not something coincidental. This Gezeres HaKosher wasn't said by people. It's because a person is a person. He's a yochid, he's a unique ben of the Rebbeinu Shalom. So it's not shayach. There's nothing that I can do any of these things. So what I'm doing is that I'm turning a human being into an object, and that the Rebbeinu Shalom says. You take a human being and you treat him as though he were an object. You treat him as though you can be kind to him. You treat him as though you can sell him. So you have made an object out of a subject, and for that I'm mechayiv you misa. I think it's a meidige Sache. This idea, and that can be understood so well as being a principle, a constitutional principle of a mamlechas koyanim v'goy kodesh. How does Rashi learn mamlechas koyanim? Mamlechas koyanim is sorem. He's a king. Each yid is a king. Now we're going to take a king and you make kinyonim in a king. Each person by himself is a melech. You know, there's a chazal. Everybody knows the Gemara. I think it's in Shabbos, right? Where the Shaidas, which the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to ask us when we come to the Beit Din Shalmala, Nososav Nosata Be'emuna, Pipata B'chachma. There are things that we ask. Kvatetim LaTorah. So there's a medrash which says that there's another question which the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to ask us when we come in front of him for the mishpat. And he's going to ask us, Himlachto es chavercha olecha b'nachas ruach. Were you mamlich your friend over you? Did you spend your life being mamlich your friend over you? Which means that it's going to be meant by me, the demand is going to be made of me, that I was supposed to take every person whom I meet in my life. You meet a lot of people in a lifetime. And each one is going to be your melech. You have to be mamlich the person over you. Now what does that mean? What's mechayev me to make you a melech over me? You're not my melech. So why should I make you a melech over me? L'maisa, you could ask the other way also. If I'm supposed to make him my melech, so he's mistama supposed to make me his melech. So I make him my melech and he makes me his melech. So where does that leave us? So how do we understand that? How do we understand such an obligation that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to be mamlich other people over ourselves? What does it mean? So I think it means the following. And then it fits in very, very well with what we're learning over here with the Dibra of Lasignov. Lemaisa, the pshat is like this. Each one of us is a melech in his own little world. I'm a melech in my world. What do I mean by that? I meet people. I meet tons of people. I meet people, I meet my employers, I meet my talmidim, I meet my neighbors. Everybody whom I meet comes into my world. He walks into the world over which I am a melech. I'm a melech over my own life. And therefore, lemaisa, it's just a human fact that we look at the people whom we meet as objects to my subject. In my world, I'm the only one who counts. It's always the I. Somebody made a very interesting remark once. That's interesting, and it's in a way it's very sad. When we want to do an avera, there's something over there. There's a candy, and it's got a questionable hechsher, and I want to eat it. What's going on inside me? I want to eat this. I want to eat this. It's I who wants to eat it. When we want to do a mitzvah, we don't want to do an avera. So how do we talk to ourselves? Look, this is something you shouldn't do. You're more choshev than that. This is nicht verkehrt. Isn't that interesting? That the I associate with my wants, my cravings, even if they're averas. And when I want to do something good, it's like somebody, a Rosh Yeshiva, a mystical Rosh Yeshiva, a mystical Rebbe is coming to me and saying, listen, you should be above that. I am a king. A king gets what he wants. In my world, I am a king. You encroach on my world. You are an object to my subject. I look at you only from the point of view of what can you and what do you contribute to my world. I have a Talmud. Are you admiring my shir? Are you listening to me? Are you moirdik nispoil from what a great teacher I am? He's an object. What I should be doing is, I should be wondering, Yankel, am I fulfilling my duty legabe you? You've got the right, you've got a tviyah on me to teach you Torah. But I don't think that way. I think from my standpoint, because I'm the melech. I'm the melech. Anybody, I give a speech, are the people listening to me? If I see that they're interested, it gives me a terrific boost. If I see that they're all dropping off to sleep, I feel broken. Every person who encroaches onto my consciousness, he encroaches into my field, into my world, is a subject in my malchus. I think that the Geder of Himlachta es chavercha olecha b'nachas ruach, that I have to be mamlich you. I ask, what's the point? You have to be mamlich me, and I have to be mamlich you. So you are my melech, and I'm your melech. So let's already leave things as they are. What do I have to be mamlich you? I think what it means is that the Torah demands that l'chol ha'pachas, I have to understand that just like I am the melech over my world, and everybody who comes into my world, I view as an object encroaching into my malchus. Realize, be mamlech your friend over you. Realize that just like you feel legabe your world, he feels legabe his world. And legabe him, you're the object who's encroaching into his world. You have to understand him. You have to have patience with him. You have to realize how his mahalach ha-machshava is going. You know, I got news for you. How is his mahalach ha-machshava going? Exactly as your mahalach ha-machshava goes. Just like you look at him as an object encroaching into your malchus, he looks upon you as an object encroaching onto his malchus. And that way you come to understand him. That's the geder of himlachta es chavercha olecha b'nachas ruach. That's what the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to ask us. Did you have enough seichel to understand that each person in his world, the greatest God and the most posheter person in the shuk, they're all kings. They're all kings in their world. And that is what the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to ask us when we come in front of the Kisei HaKovod. says, did you make the whole world into objects, or did you realize that to the extent that you come into his world, you're the object to his subject? So everybody's a melech. Everybody's a melech. So you can't make a melech into an object. And that is the issa of Ganev Nefesh. You're treating him like an object. And that is, we can read it into the Rikanati, or we don't have to read it into the Rikanati. The Maisa is, and that's what he's saying, the Rebbeinu Shem made all of us into Bnei Chayrin, we are all Melachim. And you know what? What does it say in the Torah? In the Torah it says, V'atem tiyu li mamlechas kayanim v'goy kodesh. Zog Rashi, what is mamlechas kayanim? Sorem. So the yisoid of the Aseres HaDibros, the yisoid of Mamet HaSinai, is that each of us is a melech. Sorem. Mamlechas kayanim, we're a kingdom of kings. 600,000 kings. And now the Torah says, you go and you steal such a king, and you make a kinyan on him, and you use him, and you sell him. None of it makes any sense. None of it has any halachic kiyum. But lemaisa, you're taking somebody who is part of the mamlechas kayanim, the goy kodesh, and you're making an object out of him. On that the Rebbeinu Shem says, on that there's a chiyuv mitzvah. That is the fundamental principle of Yiddishkeit, and that is why the Rebbeinu Shem is going to ask us when we come to the Kisei HaKoved, did you understand that when you deal with another person, you're dealing with a king? That's the Ikka. So it's an Ikka should be Ikram. And we understand very, very well how this Avera, this Loisignov, comes into the Aseres HaDibros.